I was born in a box, and my circumstances were my box.
Right.
I didn't know any better, so I thought I was living my best life.
Wow. Man, thank you, brother.
Thank you so much.
Now, what's your go-to when you show up at a coffee shop?
So when I came to America, I thought Starbucks was a gift from God. You know, I was like, coffee, and you can get it everywhere you go.
That's crazy.
And it's the same menu. I was like, what? No way. So I started off drinking all the lattes, all the frappuccinos.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, just like give me that sugar.
Yeah.
Like, I want it, you know. And I would make a meal out of it. But then I started traveling to like parts of America which did not have a Starbucks.
Right.
And it would be a gas station.
Yeah.
And then it would be
different experience.
Different experience because then I'm like, whoa. And as soon as you drink something from there, you're like, oh, I can bite on these coffee beans right now. You know, I feel like I was grinding them while
That is correct.
So to find middle ground, I started to like work my way.
Yes.
So I got to just drinking regular coffee with a little creamer.
Okay, just a little bit.
Little creamer,
okay.
Sugar.
Got it.
And now I just drink a medium roast coffee with 2 sugars. And
I love it. So what you said really kind of struck me because you came to America. Take me back to where you came from and what was coffee like there? Like what did coffee mean or represent, you know, back home?
So I grew up in Calcutta, India, now called Kolkata, India. And it's one of the biggest cities in India, like 16 million people, very busy. But I grew up in a culture where tea was the biggest thing. So you've heard of Indian tea, but they're all different styles of tea leading up to tea. Like one of the famous ones is called Darjeeling tea.
Okay.
And I grew up in West Bengal, which is a state. Calcutta is the city. And West Bengal also has Darjeeling. And Darjeeling is like the foothills of the Himalayas. So it's where like beautiful tea happens. So in my culture, everybody drank tea all day long like it was water.
That's right, for real. So what was it like growing up in Calcutta?
A little roots of where I grew up was, grew up in the city, almost catty-corner to where Mother Teresa's like establishment is.
That's a trip. So you grew up in proximity to the work she was doing.
Absolutely.
While you were alive, right?
While I was alive. And I remember, you know, my dad and mom being inspired by the work she did. And all that to say, grew up there, but grew up in extreme poverty. I grew up in a home that was 12 feet by 6 feet wide. Like 12 feet long, 6 feet wide. And my mom and dad slept on the floor, and me and my sister shared a bed all my life while I lived there. So we were poor. Both my parents worked. My dad worked as a welder that welded on ships in the harbors of Calcutta, and my mom was a receptionist at one of the well-to-do hotels in the city. So both of them worked, but it was just really hard to get out of poverty and when I was born.
So what was that like? So as a kid, you're growing up and this is all you know. So it's not like you're thinking or longing maybe for something extremely different. It's just learning to live in the midst of what is your situation. But when you think back to it, like now with the perspective you have, like what was it like as a kid, just trying to be a kid in the midst of extreme poverty where so many things are happening around you on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, when I look back on it now, I can't even believe how I've gotten this far.
Wow.
Because the way I look back on it, I think of myself, I was born in a box, and my circumstances were my box.
Right.
And you know, obviously God happened. It was hard, but the highlight of it, I can tell you, I was super content. Like,
Wow.
like I can't think back a day and say, I feel like I lived my best life. Like,
Wow, that's crazy.
I didn't know any better. I thought I had everything I needed.
Right.
My parents took care of me. They
Right.
loved me.
Right.
For our birthdays, we didn't get presents, but I got a shirt and a pant,
Right.
and I was like, I got new clothes.
Yeah.
It's my
wow.
birthday, man.
This is crazy.
And I was real happy as a kid, and everything my parents did. So the word I would say was content, and I didn't know any better, so I thought I was living my best life.
Wow.
But a lot of also kids in my situation probably didn't have the best upbringing at home, so it'd be harder for them.
Right.
I think I was really blessed with parents and godly parents who loved us in our extreme situation and worked really hard to get us out of it.
Yeah. So in that way, you're in a city and a country where you said godly. Maybe that isn't going to be the word that is used to describe a lot of sets of parents. Like, talk about faith. Like, when you were a kid growing up, and then faith in your home. Like, how does that all apply to your life?
Yeah. I'm half British, half Indian. I'm an Anglo-Indian. So Britain came to India and they were there for a time. So through my lineage on both my parents' side, we have British heritage and Indian. And so I was born into a Christian home because of my name. And so I have family members with, all British English names and not Indian typical names.
Sure.
Yeah, so all that to say, grew up in a Christian home and landed up going to an Assembly of God's church because the Assembly of God's just started a non-profit organization that was helping kids be sponsored through the system and be able to go to a school,
Okay.
an English speaking school they would call it, so
Right.
where your curriculum was all in English. And there would be a sponsor in a different country that would do that. And I was one of those kids.
So you were a beneficiary of this sponsorship.
I was sponsored for 14 years by a couple in Memphis, Tennessee.
In Memphis, Tennessee.
In Memphis, Tennessee, that decided they wanted to help a kid in India
Wow.
be able to go to school. So I was able to go to the school, at 3.5 years old.
Wow.
Start getting my education, get my meals every day, my clothes, my uniform that I wore, the shoes on my feet, my healthcare was taken care of for 5 days a week. And then I got, an extra pair of shoes for Christmas. Like, I was in the system for 14 years.
That's unreal, man.
My sister was a sponsored child. My best friend was a sponsored child. So I know that's very relevant in our culture and in the churches in America, and I'm a product of that.
That's
of people pouring
beautiful
into something that they didn't even know existed or see how that would turn out. I am a product of that. And
so some person all the way across the world is building up your life in ways that you probably couldn't even imagine, saying thank you for, right?
Just unbelievable how God uses people, his people, to do things. And it was one of the things like, as simple as, and I don't remember the exact dollar number, but it was somewhere between $30 and $40 that costed this couple, Dave and Regina, to sponsor me a month. And that took care of all my needs.
Wow.
And then most importantly, gave me an opportunity to go to a school and be in an environment that there were godly people of God that were pouring into me.
Right.
And then eventually I was able to dream, and because I was out of my box,
Right.
now the dreams were out of the box.
Yeah.
And now I sit here in Nashville, Tennessee with you, sharing my story.
Well, go back with me one more time,
Yes.
because you said something along the path right there that it intrigues me. You said this support that came from this couple allowed you to get out of the box and start to dream. What were some of the dreams for Marcus when he was a kid in Calcutta? You're in this place where your view of the world is limited by what you see. You have this Mother Teresa figure who is almost mythic, just a couple of blocks away, doing this incredible work. But your perspective, I would imagine, is unique in a sense that the word dream has to feel somewhat limited, right? Like, what were you dreaming about when you started to feel free to think about the future?
Absolutely, yeah. So growing up, again, extreme poverty, small home, but we had a radio, and my mom and dad would always have the radio playing and music playing in my house. So when you came home, we turned on the radio, and we would call it Western music, so music from the West.
Yeah,
which
right.
is a lot of like, and I grew up listening to Elton John, the Eagles, Engelbert, you know, and then eventually once Christian music got to India, it was Don Moen, Ron Kenoly. So it was like, that was embedded into my life at a very young age. That was my entertainment.
Wow, yeah, just crowding around the radio, listening.
Yeah, listening to music. It wasn't watching TV, it wasn't playing games, video games, and like none of that existed.
Right, yeah.
So in music would just capture my imagination so fast that would just take me to another world. And then it was the 8th grade when I'm attending the school, which this couple from Memphis was able to help me get into school and supported me.
Yeah.
There was a missions team had come by, a bunch of college kids and professor going through India, taking the missions team with them, and they were a worship band. And they came and led songs during our chapel. And during that, I was like, they were talking about how they were traveling and playing music, and I was like, that's interesting. I've never been exposed to that. So from the 8th grade, I knew I wanted to be in the music industry. That's where I am now, and help create music for the future generations. And it all happened, me being in an environment that I would never had the opportunity to be in school, because my family didn't have the funds to do that. Then me being in school, I'm being exposed to this amazing opportunity where people came and served, God's people showed up. And then the light bulb moment between that and my love for music, I was like, this is what I want to do. So
you get this dream implanted in your heart, 8th grade, you start working toward it. How did you get from that to now, all of a sudden, you're not in India anymore, you're in America? Like, how did that work?
Yes. After I learned what sound engineering was, I became that weird kid in school in India. There's only like 3 majors. When you are in the science program, math and business, or arts, which included all the languages and history and geography. And that had nothing to do with music.
Right.
And there is no audio program. And so I kind of figured my way through school. All my friends are going to college and, you know, going to be teachers and scientists and accountants, and I was the weird kid like, I want to do music, and nobody understood what I want to do.
Right.
There was an alum from the university, Asbury University, that had come to work at Mother Teresa's across the street. And at this point in time, I'm already out of high school. Just my dad had a little construction business on the side. I was kind of helping him oversee some construction work. And then he has an orphanage, and now we had 40 kids from the streets, and orphans or from single moms that my mom and dad built a little space for them outside the city so we could raise the next generation. This alum from Asbury comes, loves what my dad is doing, and decides to sell his home and house in Illinois and move to Calcutta.
Wow.
So my dad gets on a plane with him, comes to America, and starts helping him pack and sell his things so he could come and live in India with us. And they were driving through Kentucky, and the alum was like, hey, my university is down the street. Do you want to go check it out? We went and checked it out, and Asbury was just breaking ground on a new media communications building that included a recording studio.
Come on.
My dad's bing, bing.
Yeah.
Just like, what?
Well, it's probably messing him up because he's putting together this is the weird stuff my son has been trying to get into this whole time.
Yes.
Come on.
And he has, no idea what that is, but that's what Marcus wants to do.
Right.
So I was somewhere in Darjeeling, and I get an email saying, we've received your transcripts, and you are welcome to Asbury University.
What?
For the fall, this is in November, for the fall of next year.
Wow.
I was like, what in the world is this? I have no idea.
Sure.
I called my mom back in Calcutta. She's like, your dad called me. He's at this college. They have this program. He met the admissions people. And they have that sound engineering thing you are wanting. And we send them all your transcripts. My mom and dad wrote a letter every week for months.
Oh, man. Just blowing them up.
Asbury was able to give me a pretty solid scholarship after that.
From your mom and dad just sending those notes?
I want to say 60 or 70% scholarship.
Wow.
To give you some perspective, in India, the average person makes $70 a month.
Wow. There's your perspective.
Yeah.
Right there.
When I heard that, I was like, there's no way we're going to figure this out financially. There's no way I'm going to go to America. There's no way. Even though God has brought me there.
Right, yeah.
I've been accepted
it's
now.
It's clear. Yeah, he's working.
Like, no way. I came to this country with $60 in my pocket in a suitcase.
Wow.
And that was 13 years ago. And made my way to Asbury and go through the audio production program and got a degree in media communications and just worked really hard, made my way to Nashville, worked for country artists, Christian artists. I started volunteering my time to run sound and audio and grab them coffee and drive the bus and set up the merchandising.
You just wanted to get in.
I did everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I've worked so hard to be here, but more than for myself, I wanted it for all the people that poured into me.
Wow.
For God's people that sacrificed so much for me.
Yeah.
That I was like, I gotta do this. And it was a lot of hard work, but God just showed up, like between the couple, the nonprofit that started the school, my parents, the alum from Asbury, the president of Asbury, me going to Asbury, then landing up not being able to even cover my bills halfway through. The carpenter of the university said, come stay with me. I lived with them for 2 years, moved to Nashville. I worked for, Martina McBride, and they gave me the opportunity to come and work at the studio. Unspoken, a Christian band was just starting up, and they were like, hey, we have a middle back seat open if you want to jump in the van with me. And I toured all of Kentucky and ran sound, and they took such good care of me. I've been to 2 Olympics. I've ran sound and video and audio in Sochi, Russia, and in Tokyo a couple of years ago. Been now a part of a company that I've owned for 5 years that manages artists that are multi-Dove and Grammy award-winning, sold millions of records, and the influence of my dream of influencing the future of music. I get to do that through these people that influence millions of people. And then here's the best part. Then I go share my story of me being a sponsored child.
Wow.
Meeting a sponsored family. And then I get to see one more sponsor get sponsored. And since I've been able to share my story, there's been thousands and thousands and thousands of kids being helped because God's people showed up. I never thought that I would be here sitting, having a conversation with you about being in music, but more than that, influencing the next generation of kids all over the world that are having the opportunity of dreaming.
Dude.
Because my dream came true.
Man, the kid from the box is now in America running a company, doing music. Man, like, it's God's hand of provision over and over and over again is such a beautiful gift. And I know that that's not something you take for granted. And I know that it's something that informs the way that you live, the way you love your friends and your neighbors. And like when I think about being here in America and the faith journey, I feel like it's easy for us to take for granted the opportunity to go to church, to worship freely. Even when you think back to who you started out as in the beginning of your journey of faith, who you are now, how does seeing the hand of God at work, all these crazy examples of provision, just the amazing way that you've been able to benefit from God's graciousness to you, like how does that affect the way that you view faith now? Like,
oh yeah,
in America, like, because you not only are experiencing your own journey of faith, you get to be around Christian people who are doing music and talking and preaching and stuff. Like, I don't know, I'm just fascinated by the idea of the difference between what life was like in Calcutta, what life is like here. It's the same Jesus, but just seeing how knowing him and your experiences has affected your view of faith here in the United States.
Yeah, I realized the faith here, all of us are in this journey together, but we feel like we need to customize our journeys to feel, I don't know why, but going back to being in India, you know, like when I talk about poverty, my prayer was pretty simple. Like, God, thank you for my food. It literally means, God, thank you for my food right now.
Right. It wasn't just a formality. Like you weren't just
like bless.
Yeah.
It was like, thank you for my food, so my belly is full.
Come on. Yeah.
You know, oh God, thank you for these pair of shoes. It's because I don't know where the next one is coming.
Yeah.
So it was a very, yes, I know we use this word, oh, depend on God. Like, no, this was like God was very active, depending on every single day of our lives.
Yeah.
So I'm used to having conversations with him.
Yes.
And just say, you need to help me figure this out.
Yeah, it's not just dependency, it's desperation.
It is like going to my father and say, Dad,
come on.
You know, I need this. And they're like, I need it tomorrow.
Right. For real.
Yeah.
Like, no, for real.
It's like, I don't need, it's not like, oh, I need you to work in your ways and figure this thing out and then lead me to an answer and help me, you know, figure my journey. It was like, no, I need to be in music so I can survive and take care of my family.
Yeah. So like, how does that change?
And you'll still ask, a lot of people ask me, so like, what's your prayer? Like, what?
Yeah. How does that change how you pray? That's right.
And you know what? And this happened to me my second year in college when I was like, again, I was like, God brought me so far. I was at a place where I couldn't pay my bills anymore. I was going to get deported from this country. My parents were in another world, all in India, not there to help their son, who had nothing.
Right.
Except for a few friends now.
Right.
And God showed up. But it was like, in that time, I was like, really like, why would you bring me this far?
Right.
I'm right here. I'm so close. 2 more years of college, I'll be out of this thing. Come on, God. And I started praying this prayer. And this is again, not too complicated, but I was like, God, take my life and use it. And in that simplicity, what I want to stress on is like, I realized like I can ask God to give me this. But we have such a loving and amazing Father. Let him dream for us.
Come on.
So me telling God, take my life and get me in the music industry to be a sound engineer. No, I said, God, take my life, use it. And I get to influence all those people in music now.
I think so often when we pray, we're praying, God, give me what I want. But what I hear you saying and what I really believe we should be praying, according to that psalm, is not give me what I want, but give me what to want. So you show me your heart, help me desire the things that you want to desire. And it sounds like that's what you're saying.
Thank you. That's exactly what I'm saying. It's like, yes, I have this love for it and you know my heart for it, but you have such greater plans than I could ever dream for myself.
Right. Man, so good.
And even as a church, I was like, you know, yes, we're down to do the mission work, but saying like, God, take this mission and you use it.
Right.
Like, who would have known that I wanted to be in music, but now I'm sitting here helping thousands and thousands of kids being sponsored because someone decided to pour into
Right.
Dave and Regina decided to do that thing. And all I'm doing is just sharing my story.
I gotta tell you, I want to meet Dave and Regina. I'm not lying.
They're simply champions. And you know what? After I got through that program, they still sponsor the next one and the next one and next one.
Come on.
They've been doing for 30 years.
30 years, man.
What a legacy. And here's the cool part I tell people.
Wow.
Dave and Regina's legacy doesn't end with me. I have 2 kids
Yeah.
that live here in Franklin, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Each of them has a room to themselves.
Wow.
I've never had a room to myself. I grew up in Calcutta. I went to college, I had a roommate. I got married, I have a wife. So I tell my wife, people say, oh, why you travel and work so much? I say, so I can get a hotel room.
get some space for the first time in your life. That's great.
But my kids are so blessed. And, I'm going to remind them that how blessed they are. But I take the joy of knowing that God used me in my life and in my faithfulness to bless my kids.
Yeah.
And, they're not going to wake up tomorrow morning and be like, oh man, I don't know what I'm going to eat for lunch today. As I'm like,
So
I don't know if I'll have lunch. Because you know why? I'm there.
Wow.
And Dave and Regina was there for me.
Right.
And my parents were there. And
Right.
God's people were there.
Right.
So now I get to do that for my kids. So Dave and Regina's legacy, or the people of God, and this is why I share my testimony, I'm a product of love.
Wow.
I'm a product of God's people's love.
Yeah.
It's the change of generations to come.
Change of generations. Man, I think about all the cool things that you get to do in your work. And we all have different things that we put our hands to. We all have different kinds of jobs, and we're all trying to learn how to incorporate our faith into our work and seeing how those things fold together. The last thing I was thinking as you were talking goes back to something that Mother Teresa once said. She said, pray for me that I not loosen my grip on the hand of Jesus, even under the guise of ministry to the poor. So basically what she was saying is, pray that I don't do a bunch of Jesus stuff without Jesus.
Yes.
What do you think about that? Like, you're someone who gets to work in the Jesus
Yes.
Conversation
Yes.
all the time. But how does that strike you when you hear it?
Yes. Working in, say, the music business, especially in the Christian space, a lot of times we're entering into places that they're not doing it for the number at the end of the check.
Right.
I tell people we do the same amount of work between country music and Christian music, just the zeros on the check are a few less. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of the people that we get to work in are really good people. Right. And really mission-minded, because it's a long process. It's hard. But yes, sometimes, the business and the ministry aspect doesn't make sense. And so you have to weigh those things. So something that I've really implemented in my team and the people I surround myself is like, what legacy are we leaving behind? Mm-hmm. Are we leaving legacies of having record deals and millions of records sold and Dove Awards and Grammys?
Right.
Or are we leaving legacies of the next Marcus and Nikitas in the generations that change? Something we've implemented is music and ministry. So basically all the people that I represent or the teams, I was like, we need to be pouring back into the future generation. Wow. So be it through the church, through the programs, we need to go and use our talents and skills to be an ambassador.
Yes.
To take a platform and speak about change or help people, because that's what God has put us to do.
Yeah.
And so there's so much work that needs to be done. And it was about 5 years ago when my boy was born. And I traveled so much. I was out on tours, helping artists, going overseas in India and back and forth. And within 3 months of his life, I'd only seen him like 15 days.
Wow.
And he was just born. And then I saw him like 15 days within 3 or 4 months.
Wow.
And I was like, am I just chasing the things of the world?
Wow.
Or am I doing what God's asked me to do? And so finding that fine balance of, well, God has asked me to be a dad to this little boy.
That's right.
And I got to be a dad and be a father and be a husband and be a son. And all those things in balance to me, just chasing my dreams of which are more career oriented, you know. And in doing that, also making decisions on time. I calculate everything with time. God has blessed me with time. And again, I'll use my kids. My son is 5 right now.
Yeah.
And just the way the culture works, I was like, well, I'm responsible. He feels responsible being in my home till he's 18. So in my head, I have 13 more summers with him. I have 13 more Christmases with him that I get to speak into before he's an adult and lives his life.
Right.
So in that perspective, what legacy I'm leaving behind with all the work also I'm doing out there.
Yeah.
Helping artists figure out, okay, we're putting music out there that's going to help grow your audience and get you into churches and speak into things that they're passionate about.
Right.
But in 2 years and 4 years, what does that do?
Yeah, man.
You know, and I think it's really important. Even one of my passions when I work with my artists and influencers and things, is like they're always giving.
Yeah.
They're always giving people because they always have a smile on their face.
Yeah.
And they have to be in a pedestal and giving. Where my favorite part is I get to give back to them. When they're in the car alone, or they're in the hotel alone, or in the bus alone, they can call me and I'll be like, man, thank you so much. This is
good.
This, you know, pray for them, bless them, make sure that their families are good, because that's what we're doing this for.
Yeah, man. Well, man, thank you for taking the time to hang for coffee. It's always so fun to grab coffee with you, man.
Thank you so much, CZ. This was one of my favorite coffees we've had together.
I mean, and many more we will.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.